saying BBC sources have been contacting sources inside of Tottenham ahead of the protest on Sunday, and they released this article about they spoke to several people off the record to try and understand a fuller picture of Levy's Tottenham regime. And here are some key points that they've picked out.
From anonymous sources.
Anonymous sources that BBC are reporting, so quite obviously a very good, reputable source. They're saying Levy will step aside when he feels it is the right for Spurs, and every option is open for different future ownership structures. This is from anonymous sources. He says, Levy is hurt by protests and he's hurt by results and has opted to sit through the Levy out chants rather than hide away, which is obviously, every game we're seeing shots of Levy in the crowd at the moment. He says...
It's funny he says he's hurt by the protests when in previous times Levy has actually said that it doesn't get to him.
He's got thick skin,
He's got a thick skin, yeah.
Yeah, true. Yes. When did he did say that. Yeah, I can't remember when it was. The sources say there is an acceptance that Spurs have not always spent well in the transfer market, but belief that recent managers, including Postecoglu, have been backed financially. The club leadership feel that they have come closer to winning more than just the 2008 League Cup in the Levy-ENIC tenure, having reached 15 semi-finals and 6 finals. And sources who have worked with Levy say he does not communicate well enough and suggest the executive team are too similar, hence the occasional own goals on policies. Basically, I guess, suggesting maybe he's surrounded by yes men.
Yeah, I mean, not even just surrounded by yes men, but surrounded by very financially driven corporate individuals within the board.
They're all too similar. They have different and diverse enough voices in the boardroom.
I think that means. So I think that's definitely true, the bottom point. In terms of the point, have the leadership got close to more trophies? I mean, that's obviously true. We have got close to more trophies in his tenureship, but I just feel like we've got close, but it's never been kind of at the forefront, like we have to go for trophies. That's kind of just like been a byproduct of sometimes how lucky we've been in times, because the times that we have won trophies as well have come under maybe poorer managers that we've had.
But I think in general, when our team's been better, we've been closer to winning the trophies, haven't we? I think that's fair to say. So I wouldn't say it's just luck. That we've been a better team. We've been closer.
in our good teams that we've had under Levy is what you'd say. You'd probably earmark it to 2 eras, under Pochettino and under Redknapp.
Yeah, and that's when we got to the most semis and finals.
Under Poch, we got to 2 finals.
Champions League final, League Cup final.
Yeah,
and we also got to 2 FA Cup semis. Is that it? No, we got to another League Cup semi.
And Redknapp, we just got to 1 semi-final, right?
We got to a League Cup final. Got to a League Cup final.
Oh, against Man United.
Yeah. And we got to an FA Cup semi, 2 FA Cup semis under him as well. In Europe, we didn't do much. We got to one. Well, no, we got to a quarter final in Europe and Champions League. We lost to Madrid.
Yeah.
But that was what's that? 2 semis and a final under Redknapp as well. So when we have been better, we've been getting more opportunities in those.
Yeah, which is fair enough. But I guess the question always remains is that we haven't under 22 years or 24 years, whatever it is, of tenureship of Daniel Levy. You're talking about how many managers in that time?
15, is it?
15. Out of those 15 managers, it seems like he's only got it right like 2 or 3 times, which is madness, really.
Yeah, definitely. And
because you say the managers that he got it right with are these, Ange Postecoglu aside, because we don't know what it's going to end like, but Redknapp, Pochettino, and I would say Martin Jol as well, was definitely a step in the right direction because he started it all.
Yeah, and I think at the time you could say Conte, albeit it ended badly. Like at the time, we got top 4, and
Yeah, but the reality is, you bring in Jose and Conte. It's just the way he managed them was complete mismanagement. You can't bring in a Mourinho and a Conte and manage the club the way he did.
Yeah, well, I would say under Mourinho, like when he brought him in, like I guess we got a bit better, but we were never a great team, apart from like a little period at the beginning of his second season where we were like we were top for a bit, but like. Well, no one was ever really like convinced. I guess there were times maybe, but under Conte it was like we were actually a really good team at one point.
Yeah, for 6 months at the end of that season. But the narrative around bringing in Jose Mourinho was, Pochettino, right, was calling for this painful rebuild. You know, we're going to need to go through this rebuild to make ourselves a successful team again. But Daniel Levy didn't listen to that. He thought, okay, look, the team is still good. If we bring through a win now manager without making too many kind of bringing in too many players, you know, we can get back to those levels of what we had under Pochettino. And I think actually Jose probably felt that before actually coming into the club and seeing what an actual shit show it was. So I felt that was complete oversight from Daniel Levy without listening to what the actual manager was saying.
No, I don't disagree. That's right. I'm just saying we're talking about managers who have come in and been good appointments. I think I was just saying when I'm comparing the Conte, I would say the Conte one made more sense than probably the Mourinho one at the time. And actually, it turned out he did make us into quite a good team, but obviously it didn't last long enough. But yeah, I think in terms of this point, the club feels like we should have won more trophies. But the reality is, when you're consistently just falling short on so many occasions, you've got to look at why, instead of just saying it's just luck or you know, we could have won those games, like you've got to look at why you're always falling short. And I think they don't take responsibility for that enough, why we always fall short on those big occasions, rather than just saying, oh, it's, you know, the guys we have in charge. Well, when everyone's doing it, you know, you've got to look at why it's happening. In terms of an acceptance, Spurs have not always spent well in the transfer market, but belief that recent managers, including Ange, have been backed financially.
I think Ange, in terms of the money that we've actually spent on players, I think there is a case for that, because you look at the players that have been brought in, you know, the likes of James Maddison, Dom Solanke, and other players that we've spent like significant values on. I think it's a fair statement. And, you know, even before Ange, we spent a 60 million on a Richarlison. I just feel like when you're trying to build a squad to do what we're trying to do, you know, Ange Postecoglu clearly came out and said his ambitions is to go and win the league with Tottenham Hotspur. And, you know, he even thought deludedly so that he could do it in his first or second season, whatever. You need to be spending more on wages to bring through the bigger talents in this game. Otherwise, they're never going to join us. They're always going to join other clubs.
Right. I think when it comes to Ange, yes, he was backed financially, but in a way, it's like they kind of had to, because we stripped the squad of load of experienced players and we lost our best player as well. It's like if they didn't spend money in that summer, they would have, you know, they could have easily, you know, got relegated. Like they would have been nowhere. So they kind of had to spend money. But fair enough, they did. They spent money on Van der Ven, Maddison. They did have a big summer. We spent 200 million. But then obviously this summer, probably didn't do enough, I think, and we got punished for the holes we left in the squad, and we're feeding that now. So as much as we have spent money under Ange, for sure, it was kind of just money you kind of expected us to spend, rather than money that was like on top of a team which was going places, if you know what I mean, like it should have been this summer.
Yeah, but again, like I do bring it back to the wages again, because we're 6th or 7th in the wage spend when you're looking at the turnover, lowest wage to turnover in the Premier League and potentially in Europe. It's like it should be a lot more than that. And when you're bringing in someone of a 65 million of a Dom Solanke, fair enough, I do think it's a good signing, but you've got to bring in other players in other positions where we were desperate of need of, like wingers. Like, where was our top winger this summer? We needed a top winger. We needed a top defensive midfielder. And in my opinion, the reason we didn't bring someone in like that is because we were too focused on youth and too focused on lowering the wages in the squad. And that's what the main focus has been in the last couple of years.
No, I agree. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
So in terms of back financially, it's like, yes, we've signed, but I think we obviously clearly need more, and we could have probably spent more if we wanted to. Yeah, but what do you think of the first one? Levy will step aside when he feels it's right for Spurs, and every option is open for different future ownership structures.
Yeah, I mean, I don't really know what to make out of that, to be honest, because I don't know. What can you make out of that? Obviously, at some point, he's going to have to step aside, is the reality. I mean, What else can you make
we all
out
die
of
at some point.
Exactly. Exactly. We all die, we all retire, we all move on. You know, he's been here for a very long time. When is he going to feel it's right, though? That's the $1 million question, isn't it? Like, we all feel it's right now, but when's he going to feel it's right? That's what it all comes down to.
And obviously, when a lot of prospective people looking at Tottenham, a lot of them want him to stay on. A lot of them, a condition of them buying Tottenham is him staying on as chairman.
I don't think that's their condition. I think that's his condition. I think he wants to stay on.
I think they all want him to stay on.
I don't know. We haven't heard any concrete evidence of that.
No, I mean that's the reports that that a lot of them would want him to remain as chairman to run the.
Well,
club.
there's been some reports saying that, but there's been other reports saying one of them is that he wants to stay on.
I'm sure maybe both things can be true.
Yeah, so I don't know. I think that if someone does a full takeover of the club and they want to put football at first, maybe they want to. It depends what kind of new owner comes through the door. We don't know.
All right, well, but interesting stuff there.
But in terms of what he's saying, he's hurt by the protests and hurt by the results. I mean, if he was so hurt by the results, then he would have brought in players in the first week of January.
True, and he didn't. But he said he's opted to sit through the Levy out chance rather than hide away.
Yeah, well, great. Let's see him sit through it on Sunday.
Yeah, Sunday's going to be an interesting day, I think.
Yeah, and again, I want to thank Jay for coming on. Change for Spurs, big work that they're doing. Please head down to the protest on Sunday, 2:45 at the crossover of Lordship Lane and the High Road. But if you are going, remember to be respectful and not let it get anything out of hand, because we want to show ourselves in a good light. We don't want to be just some angry mob going down the road with all the expletives that maybe have been seen at other protests in the past. So yeah, I think most of the protests, to be honest, by Spurs fans have been kind of respectful, but I think it's important to show yourselves in a good light and to show ourselves in a good light during the protest.
100%.
So that is it from us today.